Alright y'all, we're back on the Frogman YouTube channel. This time we're looking at KAGURABACHI, Volume 1. This is written and illustrated by Takeru Hokazono. I just want to say before we begin, I think that KAGURABACHI is going to be one of the biggest manga in the near future. And I also think that when the inevitable anime comes out with this manga, it will be phenomenal. We have 8 chapters in Volume 1. Let's get started. I think we'll be here for a little while. So this story opens up talking about the actual forging of a sword and how different emotions and feelings go into it. And we get to meet the father of the main character. This man's name is Kunishige Rokuhira. And he comes home one day with a bunch of goldfish. And I think these goldfish are very symbolic. And we'll see why going into the actual powers of the main character as we push through this manga. One of the big things about the goldfish is that they represent different things and they do different things for you. Rokuhira, he says, the red one attracts good fortune, the black one wards off evil, and the tricolored one, well, it's supposed to be totally amazing. And of course, Chihiro, the main character, you don't say. We push a little bit forward, we get the introduction of Mr. Shiba. Mr. Shiba is an old friend of Chihiro's father, Kunishige, and he comes by every now and then to say hey. We learn a lot about Chihiro's father from Mr. Shiba. We learn that there are these enchanted blades that were made, and there were 6 of them. They were created by Chihiro's father, and they were used to end the Seite War 15 years ago. Now Chihiro gets interested in creating swords just like his father, but obviously there's a lot that comes with that. Chihiro's committed to taking it on, and I like this moment between the two. Chihiro's father, this is Rokuhira, he says, "That's how you feel. All that's left is for me to believe in you." Awesome shot of Chihiro's father walking away from him, but still putting his faith in his son. Chapter cuts to another scene where these Yakuza guys, this is 38 months later, these Yakuza guys are killing these people that they have tied up and are interrogating, and there's one guy left, and they have quite literally scared the piss out of him. Well, enter this guy with a cool little hat and a cool little ponytail. He says, "Mr. Yakuza boss, I received your payment for the officials. I think bravery is often rooted in ignorance. Have you ever seen sorcery?" And he actually grows this freaking tree out of the ground, and it traps this guy that they were interrogating. And he says, "I asked you a question. It's your first time, isn't it?" The guy says, and the sorcerer here, he says, "I thought so." He says, "Mr. Yakuza boss, so long as you make your payments, we don't mind how you do your job. But when I see upstarts like this, I do worry about your organization." The Yakuza says, "My apologies." The sorcerer, he says, "We must school them properly." And then he freaking vanishes away, but we gotta take note that the tree will vanish in time, and he has this sick tattoo on his hand of a flame. That's what it looks like to me, is a little flame. I think the tree vanishing in time shows that sorcery is not a permanent thing, that it can inevitably go away. Just something to keep note of as we push through this manga. I'm really excited for the next volume. Let's go ahead and get through this one though. Really like this moment from Chihiro. He is talking to Mr. Shiba on the train over to this town that is run by the Yakuza. And Shiba says, "You could get that scar on your face healed." And Chihiro says he doesn't want to, because every day when he starts the morning and he brushes his hair and brushes his teeth and he splashes water in his face, he starts every day with fresh hatred. Kinda edgy, but I think that it's cool that the pain that this character has gone through is what will continue to push him forward. And we'll actually get to see that in real life, real time, happen later in the volume. So here's our blue moment. This is a standout moment, one of these per chapter here on Frogman YouTube channel. This is a cool character moment for Chihiro and Mr. Shiba. They get to this town that is run by the Korogumi Yakuza, and they are seeking answers to their connection to the Hishaku, a group of sorcerers. Chihiro sees what his opposition is really like. Chihiro comes across as he wants to see if these people are reasonable and if they can come to a deal. As he is speaking of this, he quite literally sees these victims of the Yakuza. They're hanging up in broad daylight outside, bleeding, all of them dead to rights. I really like the paneling on this page. It's a really sick moment. The realization that the bad guys are pretty shitty people. all things considered. Really cool Batman drop in on the Yakuza hideout from Chihiro here, and he does this sick Beyblade spin move, kills them all. Really sick. Chops that guy's arm off. Get this awesome panel here, almost looks like Itachi from Naruto. Chihiro is a very stoic guy. He doesn't want bad people to do bad things with katanas, especially because this is an open carry, at least in terms of katanas. This is an open carry area of the world. I think they're in Japan. And we're going to push into a limit breaker note here. This is when Chihiro uses the 7th and hidden enchanted blade made by his father. He says he uses this move called Enten, and he pulls the blade out. Kuro, Enten Kuro. Showcase of the abilities that a katana, Mr. Kunishige Rokuhira, is able to make. Pretty sick though. I love the goldfish, calling that back. One of them protects, one of them gives good fortune, and then obviously there's a third one. We didn't necessarily learn what it does. So chapter 1 ends with Mr. Shiba having a smoke break, and Chihiro is freaking... He slaughtered them all. He slaughtered everybody. Except for that one guy that they were interrogating. He's free, and he's here talking to him. And they're like, hey man, why are you here? What's going on? And so while that's happening, Mr. Shiba's doing that actually. This is catching back up with Chihiro. Chihiro's talking to the Yakuza boss. He's not quite dead yet. And while he's talking to him, he freaking explodes into these tree vines from before. Almost like it was planted inside of him from the sorcerer earlier in the volume. It freaking erupts out of him, tears him into shreds. So very quickly, Mr. Shiba and Chihiro have to get out of that situation. They decide to just leave it where it is, and they are going to head back over to Tokyo. Chihiro's going to go with Mr. Shiba back to Tokyo. And we get a cool little flashback in chapter 2. You start the flashback by seeing that there is a little bit of sorcery, like magic barriers that can do cool things like protect Chihiro's childhood home. Unfortunately, what they're not able to do is save Mr. Kunishige. He is ran up on by these 3 sorcerers. One of them looks like the tree guy from earlier. The other 2 are not too detailed. We don't really get to see them. We learn that Kunishige had 6 blades. He created 6 blades, and after the war 15 years ago, the Seitei War, he actually started holding them in his home. He is keeping them safe at his home. But these 3 sorcerers run up. He gets done up. Obviously, you see him right there. Looks like guts. Rest in peace, Mr. Kunishige. As far as I know, he could be alive. I hope he's not, but I can see that being a plot point later. This is also where Chihiro gets his determination to cut down all of those who do wrong with the blade, and also the sorcerers specifically for doing this to his father. And next page here is where we get our blue standout moment for the chapter. This is chapter 2, remember. The Seitei War was 15 years ago. Kunishige created 6 enchanted blades and housed them after the war. The quick little flashback shows 3 sorcerers killing Kunishige and taking them. Chihiro carries the 7th blade. And you got a really cool scene of him sitting in this windowsill by the moonlight. Obviously, we're in Tokyo. At the end of the chapter 2, we learn that there's been a sighting of another enchanted blade, so we open up on chapter 3 with this new character. This is Hinao talking to Mr. Shiba and Chihiro as they pull up to get a few more answers. And actually, very quickly beforehand, before they got there, there was a young girl. And the actual reason they're at the coffee shop to get those answers is because Miss Hinao said that this young girl claimed to have seen one of these 6 enchanted blades in action. Has she really seen it though? And actually, here's another blue. This is our blue moment for this chapter. I really wanted to note this. There's a lot of character acting, and there's a lot of things that this character Chair does or there's a lot of things that she does that would make you believe she is a child. But she also talks about crazy things while she's sleeping or dreaming, talking about cell division and hippos and stuff like that. And she talks about different food all the time. And the different sayings that she has, it's very weird, and it's not the same behavior that you would expect from a child. So I'm looking forward to see where that goes. There is a little bit of more information about this character we get later in the volume, but at this point I was very intrigued about what her deal was. It seems like in terms of this story for Kagurabachi, I think this character is going to continue to be very important. Here we get a scene at this little soba shop while feeding Miss Cher or Chair here. Please let me know what her name is. I think it's Cher. And this sorcerer walks kind of past the main cast here while they're talking about the enchanted blades. And this sorcerer takes out the cook very quickly. Chihiro turns around to save the day, but the sorcerer, he says the word invincible, and this Daruma doll pops out and it almost explodes. It actually does explode. It throws Mr. Chihiro out of the building, and we get to see the full body shot of this sorcerer, the Daruma doll sorcerer, whose name we get later on. You get to see the full shot of him here. Push into chapter 4. This is chapter 4 of Kagurabachi. This is in volume 1. We're about halfway through this one, guys. Hang tight. So obviously here we get the clash between the Daruma doll sorcerer and Chihiro, and this is the blue moment for this chapter. Mr. Shiba explains to Cher how the enchanted blades work, while Chihiro uses his against the sorcerer. And I wanted to read this, not just for me, but I wanted to explain the enchanted blades. They remind me a lot of Zanpakuto, and I think that's why I really like Kagurabachi so far. The enchanted blade amplifies the spirit energy inside a person and whips it up into such a hyper-concentrated form that the human body can no longer contain it. Once exposed, it takes on a shape. It's like a mass of energy far greater than what a sorcerer can muster alone. So, with enough spirit energy put into an item like the sword, like the enchanted blades, the characters are able to do crazy things with them, like make manifestations and create different elements and things that all come from their sword, come from their blade. Sick ass limit breaker panel here. This is Chihiro uses a move called Aka and then combos it into the Kuro move from before. Aka is red and Kuro is black, so I think he's obviously talking about the different goldfish. One of them is red, one's black, and one of them we have not exactly seen just yet. I also think it's really sick that the manifestation of this 7th blade that Chihiro's father made, the spirit or whatever comes along with it, are the goldfish that they were raising for so long. I think that's really sick. So I think there's obviously something to that. Pushing on into chapter 5, I think chapter 5 was a pretty good one, but not much to say. Mr. Shiba begins to interrogate the Daruma doll man, and we get some displays of how strong he is. He puts his toes just on the sorcerer's toes, and he breaks the freaking ground underneath. This is going on while Cher is being fed different meals and taken around town by Chihiro. And here we go, we cut to a really sick scene. Thanks for the report. That Daruma wielding moron. I told him quite explicitly to be discreet. So you sat back and watched the whole thing, then had the gall to come back here without tailing the kid? And this guy that is being interrogated is freaking asking to be killed. We're going to skip forward a little bit. Time to change course. Go big or go home, as they say. Open the child's gate. Really sick character there, and I'm excited to see what he is capable of. This character is named Genichi Sojo. Here's our blue standout moment for the chapter. Shiba is interrogating the Daruma doll sorcerer to learn that behind all of their actions is Genichi Sojo, and that he has the Cloud Gouger enchanted blade. So the enchanted blade that they got a lead on earlier is actually held by Sojo, and it was seen by Cher. Obviously that's how the main cast has the information on it. Cloud Gouger creates clouds, and it is said to be very strong in terms of enchanted blades. So here we get some really trippy, crazy scenes of these different sorcerers pulling up on Chihiro after there's an announcement made by Mr. Genichi Sojo that he will pay any price for the little girl and the man wielding an enchanted blade, but he also wants the enchanted blade along with the man. So obviously a lot of the bad guys in and around Tokyo are now targeting Mr. Chihiro, and one of them is this guy that can create multiple copies of himself, and they turn into these shadow figures and can grab things, physically hold on to them. But thanks to Chihiro being just an absolute beast, he freaking wipes them out pretty easily until he gets trapped. There's another sorcerer that bursts up into the scene, and he locks eyes with Chihiro, forcing him to play these horrific trauma-filled scenes from his past over and over and over again for what seems like hours. But again, another reference to Naruto is like the infinite the Infinite Tsukuyomi, I think is what it was, where only a few seconds has gone by, but for Chihiro alone, since he was trapped in this, it feels like hours and hours. Pretty cool use of sorcery powers there. I think sorcery has no limit right now. I'd like to see where what is possible and what's not. What's the extent of it? The Frogman standout moment for this chapter's chair or share is the last of the Kyonagi. Their regenerative power is what Sojo is seeking. This freaking sorcerer comes up to Cher. She's a little girl, and he freaking grabs her leg, and he starts to crush it and rot it away. But naturally, it starts to just heal on its own. So obviously, the Kyonagi people are able to do this regenerative thing. It's interesting to wonder about what Mr. Sojo wants from Miss Cher. Here we go, pushing into the purple, most memorable panel from the volume. We get one of these per volume. This moment was sick. The sorcerer that replayed these driving moments for Chihiro over and over again got the consequences that he deserves. Remember earlier in the volume we learned that Chihiro's main driving factor is his hatred and how much anger he gets from thinking about the things that have been done to him. So you show him that moment over and over again, and you expect him not to just freaking go berserk after. I really like this panel. I think the sword looks awesome. It's a sick shot. And then you turn the page one more, and you get Chihiro just going nasty style on this mass group of people. They're all like these doppelganger clones of this one sorcerer, all while holding on to Cher, which was sick. And it's awesome. We're legit seeing one of the strongest out of the gate anime characters, and at least he hasn't really been humbled too much yet. That's Chihiro. Chapter 7 we're pushing into now. Chapter 7 was pretty sick because we begin with the introduction of a few brand new characters, or at least one character that I think is pretty sick because he shows off how strong he is in his debut scene. This is the introduction to Mr. Azami, a member of the Kamunabi. The Kamunabi are sorcerers that work for the government. Mr. Shiba used to be one of these also, as revealed in the chapter. They work for the government using sorcery to eliminate any threats to the nation. Mr. Azami is kind of a businessman. He wants to do what's right for the business that he works in, but he also has a little bit of compassion for Chihiro, it seems, because he grew up with Mr. Shiba and Chihiro's father, Kunishige. I think they served in the war, or at least they may have all been part of the Kamunabi at one point. I know these two were. And here we go. The one of the most sick moments from this manga volume. This is the Limit Breaker bonus note for Chapter 7. The Raku Zaichi auction will feature another enchanted blade, the Shinuchi. Sojo is now connected to 2 blades now. He is connected to not only the Cloud Gouger, but also this new legendary enchanted blade Shinuchi that is going to be auctioned off during this Raku Zaichi meeting. It's an annual black market meeting. I just thought this was a sick moment. I think it gives us somewhere to go forward from here, and I think we needed that in this manga. I'm super excited to see where it goes, especially considering the end of the volume in Chapter 8. Chapter 8 has a really sick cover on it. I just want to appreciate the art. We learn the name of the Daruma doll sorcerer. His name is Norisaku Madoka. And he actually calls his family, he calls his sister, and he apologizes for choosing a life of crime. And they want to go together to meet their mother. And so he can apologize and maybe get back on the straight and narrow. Unfortunately, he steps inside his sister's car, and she has legit already been gravely wounded. And he looks in the rearview mirror, and Sojo is in the freaking car, and he stabs him through the back of the chair. These deaths are the cost of not finishing your work, Mr. Sojo says to the Daruma doll sorcerer. The Daruma doll sorcerer decides to blow himself up, including the car, because he believes his sister is already dead. Manifestation of power again. We're getting to see the effect of a enchanted blade. Sojo is able to freeze the sorcerer with the Daruma dolls before he explodes. And he actually steps outside of the car, and he gives a cool little moment. You never finish anything properly. If you've chosen a path in life, at least commit to one measly... What the hell? If you've chosen a path in life, at least commit one measly lifetime to it. Unfreezes the sorcerer in the car, and then he continues to still blow himself up, and Sojo is on his way. Sick moment. I really wanted to point this out. The same sorcerer that locked eyes with Mr. Chihiro freaking does the same thing to Sojo. And we see this crazy panel. Sojo's down here in the flowers, but everything is, there's these people hanging above him. And they're all dead. I don't really know the backstory there, but I think that's something to note. Obviously, I think we're going to see more of that. Holy shit. I know your jaw dropped when I saw the panel. I know my jaw dropped. I know yours dropped. I think I'm going to drop my draws. This is the blue panel for this chapter. This is chapter 8, the final one in volume 1. Soju arrives at the coffee shop after killing the Daruma doll sorcerer. He also showcases the power of the Cloud Gouger. Holy shit, y'all. You've seen that Cloud Gouger. That's an awesome panel. And we're actually not done, because we got one more limit breaker. Baboosh. Cliffhanger. Then you have no business wielding it. Yes, that's good. Bring it on. The two are gonna clash with their enchanted blades. I'm super excited. You've got the two fish outside of Chihiro's blade here, and you've also got the Cloud Gouger making all kinds of clouds behind Sojo. Man, these characters are both awesome designed. I'm excited to see where this manga goes. I'm excited for volume 2 because that is unfortunately the end of volume 1 of just Kagurabachi. That is the end of volume 1 of Kagurabachi. This is a story by Takeru Hokazono. Go support the official release and support the Frogman YouTube channel. Like and subscribe to the channel.